Hi everybody, this is Greg Tanner for The Mindful Eye and the photo of the week on the Daily Critique. This week's photo of the week was submitted by Mike, who is an advanced photographer from Canada. Mike shot this with a Canon G9 power shot, and the backstory on this image is that Mike took a trip with his son Eric. They went to the Dominican Republic. They had friends there, and the big part of their plan was to actually shoot landscapes and sort of out-of-the-way landscapes that they were going to be guided to. But as they spent more time on this trip and they were invited into people's homes, the focus shifted to photographing the people of the Dominican Republic. And there's actually a good bit more to the backstory, and I'm going to talk about that at the end of the presentation. I want to get into what I like about this image. One of the things that I like right away about the image is just how incredibly dynamic color is and how much depth is happening in this image. What a powerful feeling of three dimensions that you have when you look at this image based on color theory. And it's really interesting to look at these two colors together. You have red and blue, and not quite the primary versions of those colors. You've got a red that has a little bit more magenta or pink in it, and blue has exactly the same thing. And so these are almost perfect color complements, just off center of the primary version of those colors. And when you combine that with the fact that this beautiful little girl, an amazing portrait subject, her hair and her coloring is warm tone, that harmonizes the feeling of the dress, and then all of that warm in a different way, the dress obviously being the most dynamic, just pops her right off of the background. Even though she's right next to the background, there's not a chance here to sort of play around with a fall off of focus just from a color standpoint. There's an amazing feeling of difference and distance from, let's say, her hands to the wall. And so this is just such a great image to look at and really get your mind around how powerful color is, just at the level of dimension and form and separation and creating the illusion of moving through an image. The other thing that I love about this image is I just love what's happening with quality of light. You know, one of the things that we talk about on our workshops where we do impromptu portraits of people is that even on an overcast day, there's still a powerful flow and a direction to the light, and really sort of paying attention to that and being able to see these subtle qualities of light. And you have what looks like maybe an overcast day here, and with this little girl standing next to maybe a wall of a house. You can see this really beautiful broad catch light in the eyes, and with her looking up and with there being a definite flow, even though the light is very broad, there's still a direction to it in the image. From this side of the image to this side, you get this really beautiful feeling of the eyes being alive because of the catch light, her looking up and the light flowing into the eyes. You get a real strong sense of this side of the face being brighter than this side, so the fall off of light, even though it's subtle, creates a real powerful feeling of dimension. I love the fact there's a highlight shadow and then a highlight again, and you're getting the light hitting the back of her head, creating a lot of dimension in just this part of the image. And you're also getting a really beautiful little drop shadow here, even though it's subtle, that's again helping her to separate from the background in a very dynamic way. Another thing, sorry about that. Another thing that I like about this image is there's an aspect of looking at the image where it feels very formal, like she has been dressed up, or she's dressed herself up for the picture, and this background has been chosen and she's been put into the scene. But then the gesture seems to be very offhand, and I love the juxtaposition of the feeling of something that could be very formal, but then the gesture is not. And I think the gesture here is very powerful. Just the concept of looking up in a way can evoke the feeling in the viewer of this girl remembering something, and so that creates a nostalgia, a real powerful feeling of story in the viewer. And then the fact that she's holding something, and not only is there energy connected to the thing that she's holding, the gesture itself from a quality of line standpoint, her arms and her hands, very beautiful. There's a really beautiful movement of line. There's a really powerful feeling of sort of a circular figure eight in here. And when you combine that energy with the looking up and the fact that even though the body is straight into the camera and Mike's shooting straight into the wall, you've got a movement here that's very powerful. All that starts to take this super sort of formal thing, this construct, very graphic, and it gives it a whole nother kind of dimension, feeling. Um, the other thing that I really enjoy about this image is that in addition to the background working so powerful just at the level of color theory, to me the background is very powerful in a lot of other ways in this image. One of the things I love about the background is how Mike has played first a lot of negative space with the background. That obviously helps to balance the red. You need a lot of blue to balance the red from a color theory standpoint. But with her looking up and away and this suggestion of kind of another dimension of memory, I think these kinds of images that suggest sort of reflecting, the viewer can sort of look in this direction as sort of a cross-hatching of visual energies or concepts and go over here and sort of be contemplative just like she's being. So I think just from a conceptual standpoint, that's really powerful. And then from just a shape standpoint and balance standpoint, when you look at her face, you've got a highlight on the short side of the face. You have the same thing on the background. You've got the short side of the background is highlighted, then a big soft shadow on the broad side of the face, and then the broad side of the negative space in the background is in a shadow. You're seeing that on the dress too, relative to this real powerful design element. Here, you've got the short side over here, broad side over here, and something else is happening with the background. One of the powerful elements of design on the dress is this floral idea, very beautiful. And it's really cool how her hands and whatever this is rhyming this idea of the floral design element. But then when you look in the background, almost by some kind of miracle, that same shape starts to just play out over and over and over again in the image. And that real subtle but kind of archetypal visual unity is really sort of amazing to me at what it's doing to help to tie the image together. And I also think there's a really beautiful sort of rhythm that's going on with the shape of the arms and the shape of the hands, and this again is a real dominant visual design element. Just so many things to me about this portrait that are working in a powerful way. And then I wanted to give you, like I said, a little bit more backstory. This image actually came out of a publication that Mike and his son Eric and Mike's other son, who works on the design of the publication, this image came out of an ongoing project of a publication that Mike has called Mike's Journal. Mike's been generous enough to participate in several Mindful Eye workshops. He was on our Tetons workshop just at the end of last year, and I got a chance to interview Mike about the creation of Mike's Journal. One of the really cool things about the journal is that in addition to doing photography, Mike's a very talented writer, and so he combines poetry and short stories and exposition, writing about the photographs with the photography. And I got a chance to talk to Mike overall about the journal. We also got a chance to talk about how writing informs photography in his process, or vice versa. The photography might inform the writing. A really great 10-minute interview, and over the course of the next few weeks I'm going to be putting together an inspiration image showcase where you can find out more about Mike's work and Mike's journal, and even get a chance to get a copy of the journal. And so just want to say a huge thank you to both Mike and Eric for sharing their work. It's been a big inspiration to me for sharing this particular image with the Mindful Eye community, and we hope to see you again. Everybody on the Mindful Eye, hope you have a great weekend. Thank you.